Welcome to Tales of Hope, where every paw print counts. AnimalZone in the house, spreading love, hear the sounds. Every week animal stories, rights and welfare in the mix. Step up, take action, we're giving animals a fix. Tales of Hope, raise your voice, make some noise. Change the game for every animal, girl and boy. One world, one fight, let's turn the page. A future for the voiceless, bring hope to center stage.
Now, in one of your episodes, you've interviewed renowned animal advocates like Wayne Purcell on the show. What insights from those conversations, for example, Purcell's personal journey into animal welfare, have stayed with you or reinforced your own mission?
Well, Wayne is a remarkable voice for animals. His advocacy, his books, his leadership with the Animal Wellness Action Organization, a nonprofit that he runs, they all speak to his deep sense of mission. He also has a wonderful personal side. Wayne and his wife Lisa, they actually got married right here at our farm.
Wow!
And it was a star-studded celebration of animal lovers that came to celebrate their marriage, and at a perfect moment of comic timing, as the officiant was going through the process and says, "Does anyone object to this marriage or this union?" Our donkey Eli began braying, and really loudly and persistently. Luckily, everybody thought this was pretty darn funny, including the bride and the groom, because it was really an enthusiastic blessing in our mind for them, rather than an objection. But Wayne is a wonderful man. He's done so much for animals in the United States, and he's just a great person. If you ever have a chance to get him on your show, that would be really wonderful.
I would love to do that. If you can recommend or connect me to him, I would be happy to have him on the show.
Absolutely.
Now, for a bit of fun, you even had your own rescue cat Sprite consulted by a pet psychic on air. Now, that must have been an entertaining experiment. Did anything the psychic said about Sprite surprise you, or was it mostly just lighthearted fun?
Well, first I got to tell you about Laura Stinchfield, who's this pet psychic. And she's quite well known here. She has written books. She has a YouTube channel. She does consulting with many, many people across the country as an animal communicator. Now, I got to say, our crew initially was a little skeptical. They said, "Yeah, pet psychic, sure. That's sort of wishy-washy. Who knows if it's really real?" And I said, "Yeah, but she's really, a lot of people really say she does the right thing. So let's give it a try." So we've had her on talking with different animals, different situations. For example, one of the things she did, which was amazing, we went up to Ojai, which is not far from Santa Barbara, to a ranch that has horses and equines that are retired, that are in their last stages of life. And there was one called Buttercup, about 30 years old horse. And she went up to Buttercup, and we started filming her talking to Buttercup, just like I'm talking to you. She'd say, "How are you feeling? What's going on?" And Buttercup would then show her images. That's how she says she sees images, not hearing words, but images. And the images that she was seeing was that Buttercup was feeling very sore in her legs and her walking. Didn't feel good. Didn't feel like running around or doing much what a horse normally does. And she also told her that she had a loose tooth in her mouth. So Laura just tells us this, just like I'm talking to you. Just tells us this. And Laura had never seen the horse before, didn't even know about the horse until we got to the horse. And so then we dismissed Laura, and we brought in a veterinarian, and we had him do an exam. And he didn't hear any of this either. So he starts examining the horse and says, "Oh, well, this horse must be having trouble walking because she's got arthritis." Oh, that's interesting. When he got around to her mouth, he put his hand in her mouth, and what did he do? He pulls out a tooth that was loose. Now,
wow.
That was the real deal. I mean, we couldn't have made that up. I looked at the camera. I said, "They're going to think we set this up." I know they are, but we didn't. And it was just one of the examples of how accurate she can be with her communication with animals. As far as Sprite goes, what she learned from Sprite was something we already knew, which was he's the boss of the house. Yeah, it was really cute, and Sprite is still one of the most loving creatures you can imagine.
Oh, perfect. This is such a beautiful story. I know. I mean, so far I've never had the opportunity to to meet somebody who communicates or has a psychic ability, but I know there are a lot of people out there, who can do that, and it's such a wonderful thing.
You know what we can do? Just like with Wayne, I can get you her information, and maybe she could come on your podcast, and maybe you could bring one of your dogs on the show and have her, because she can see like I'm seeing you. She can see through a television or screen or whatever, a monitor, the animal and communicate.
Wow, that would be that would be fun. That would be really, really fun and exciting as well.
Yeah.
Because sorry, it's not being rude or anything, but in India today we have. Sorry to say that, but not only in India, I guess in Asia Pacific even, there are a lot of these so-called animal communicators who've just done their Udemy course, and we know how to communicate, and it's sad. It's very sad. Anyways,
no, if you have a real one, and I've seen the ones that are maybe they're doing the show, but it's not the real deal. But when you have one who really is the way she is, and the way she's become so good at this was that as a child she would communicate with the animals around her. And what was great was when she told her parents, I was just talking to the horse, or I was just talking to the dog, the parents didn't say, that's just your imagination, that doesn't really exist, you can't talk. They encouraged her to keep talking. And so as a result, that talent that she was born with was nurtured, and it got stronger and stronger. And of course, once she started a career in animal communication, and she's really expanded, and she teaches as well. She's fine-tuned. I mean, she can talk to animals that have passed as well, which is an amazing experience to listen to. When we lost Mikey, she sat down and started telling us what Mikey was doing in his other plateau of existence. And I mean, the tears were coming down my face like crazy, but it was so heartwarming to know what she was telling me was things that very few people knew about Mikey, and that were accurate. So it gave me great hope.
No, honestly, it's a blessing to be able to, what you said. I think Laura's, ability to communicate with these animals, I guess it's a blessing. You need to be blessed, because not all of us can do that.
No.
So it's a blessing to be able to especially communicate with these souls. I believe, calling from the above.
Yeah.
You recently encouraged donations to Santa Barbara Humane Society's capital campaign to build new shelter campus. Why is supporting a local shelter and rescue organization important to you, and how can our listeners best contribute to get involved in their own communities?
Well, as I was saying earlier, I think, for us here in Santa Barbara area, that shelter is one of the more important ones. It's a big one. And what they're trying to do, because they go back over 100 years, they're trying to upgrade all their facilities so that it's much more current to the animals' needs. As they have in their campaign, we're building this animal shelter from the paws up. In other words, they're building it with the animal first in mind, not the people that are going there. So the animals are going to be very happy in this new environment, and they're going to have areas where they can play outside and spend time with people one-on-one in a comfortable environment, and make adopting an animal much easier. Plus, they're building a veterinarian clinic that will be good for the entire community, because if you can't afford a veterinarian service, they'll provide it for you. They'll help pay for your vet costs, because some people, they have their animals and they can't afford the vet costs, then they relinquish the animal. That's the worst thing that can happen. They really want to keep people and their animals together. So it's kind of a great goal I hope, if anyone wants to learn more about this particular campaign, just go to sbhumane.org and you can see everything about the Santa Barbara Humane Society.
What I could do is, if you could send me the link to this, or when we release the episode, I would be happy to share the links of all these things for people, and let people
right now.
Please do so. Because that's the way I believe of giving back to the community. I believe, it's like people like us, we're all doing our part, and it's a way of giving back to the community what we can in a bit way, But it's such a noble cause, because what you said, what you rightly said, that, the vet cost is so high for these furry souls that at times people just relinquish. Not only relinquish, in India, they get abandoned.
Yes,
and they're left out. In India, they get left out on streets. You won't believe it. I mean, it's a sorry state. If you look at almost on the social media, there are almost 30 to 40 posts on a daily basis where people are just giving away their breeds. These are breeds. I'm talking about breeds being given away, especially with dogs. And it's so sad to see. I mean, we, even though, I don't know whether I should say this or not. There was a time when we rescued our the first rescue baby, Mira, her name is, the lab female. I think we just brought her home, and it was in about 3 weeks' time. She's completely stopped eating and everything. And almost for about 4 days, we needed to get her x-rays done twice a day, and the kind of medical bills that which we had to pay up. I think more than me, it was my wife. She said, Anil, we're not going to, we took her to the best of the best vets in the city, even though the vet doctor that takes care of all our 3 kids, she's been like a godmother to my first one, because she was the one who delivered him, and we've had faith in her for the last 4 years. We don't even want to think about anybody else. So she was also the one who actually helped us take through the journey. And it was almost, I think, about a month and a half after she recovered. And those were that period, when you think about it, gives us goosebumps, me and my wife, whenever we talk about it. Yes, it does. You won't believe it, the kind of pain and misery she would have gone through. And at the end of the day, it was, I think they took the blood test and all that. Almost after about, I think it took us 10 days to figure out that she had a tick fever, and that was what was needed. But even to go through that, there were so many things that were done, the x-rays, the blood tests, and then she had to go through an endoscopy as well. And the kind of, the things that we went through, there was a time we almost thought we were going to lose her, because she had completely stopped eating for almost, I think, if I'm not mistaken, for about a week. She was not eating anything.
Oh, wow.
Anyways,
it's so stressful. It's your child, really. It's
absolutely. Absolutely. You rightly said, they are like, whether it's a human baby or a furry baby. Me and my wife, we've taken them like they are our kids, and that's our responsibility to take care of them. Arthur, beyond TV, you worked in news media too. You mentioned that too. You are also a co-publisher of Santa Barbara News Press. How has your background in traditional media and journalism influenced the way you craft and tell animal stories on AnimalZone?
Well, the working in the media is always a challenge, because you try and keep a balanced story. And and also you want to have the people that you're interviewing, those should be the stars of the show. And I learned early on that this show is not about me. This show is about the animals first and the people looking after them second. And so if you take yourself out of the equation, it works much better because frankly, people are much more interested in seeing the animals. I mean, that's what I've seen. Even when we post pictures, we have Facebook page, AnimalZone show. We have Twitter, same URL, Instagram, all these. And I've noticed that the less I put me up on those pictures and the more I put the animals up, the more likes and hits we get. So I'm bowing out gracefully. But I think that's also a good lesson in journalism in general. Here in the States, we have such a battle going on between the left and the right and different political views and a lot of fighting. And what people are getting fed up with is all this opinion that's coming from the journalists, whether they're television or print media or magazines. So as far as this show goes, it's all about the animals. And that's what I've learned from I don't want to be a star because I've met some stars and it's a hell of a bad job anyway. Ultimately, they have no privacy. But I think that the best thing you can do is step out of the way of your what you're doing and let the topic, the subject, be the focus. And that's really kind of what I meant.
You rightly said, taking yourself out of the equation is the most important aspect. But, I also understand. And since even I've been in the entertainment business for almost 10 years of my life, but I am not the, hero out here, but given media, it's also the responsibility of the media to be honest and truthful when it comes to animal welfare, because it's not that I am being resentful or hurtful, but in India we have media that really goes against, even people who are feeders, rescuers.
That's
that's
hard to imagine.
No, it is very hard to imagine, and you also have to understand most of the feeders in this country do it from their own pockets. It's not like anybody is funded, and they're trying to do a civic duty which most of us humans have abandoned. We don't want to even look at it. And instead, if you don't appreciate, it's okay, but don't, go messing around and creating more difficult situations for us.
That's true. Yeah.
So anyways, now working in animal rescue media means, you see a lot of hard stories, because I know every day we have so much so much of heartache. How do you personally cope with more heartbreaking parts of animal rescue? And what keeps you hopeful and inspired about the future of animal welfare?
Well, what we're trying to do with this show is take a positive approach to animal welfare, animal rescue. So we're not showing the abuse and the cruelty and all the stuff. Unfortunately, you can find most of it on the internet. Because we really are a family-oriented show. We want to show the positive, the hopefulness, the things people are doing that are doing good things for the animals, and the animals that are happy and healthy and growing and glowing from all this care and love. So our show is definitely aimed at a positive angle. And when we set up a program, for example, in pre-production, right now we're planning on shooting in Florida later this year. And what I'll do is I do my research, a lot of research beforehand. So I'm on the internet, I'm making phone calls, I'm talking to other people in the area to find out, is this a really good shelter? Are they really doing the right thing for the animals? Is this somebody we should help bring out to the focus? And most of the time it is. Occasionally we get a couple of people rolling their eyes going, no, you don't want to do that one. And they're right. And not everybody's doing the right thing, but we focus on the ones who are. And those are our AnimalZone heroes. And we really try and make sure that not only are they profiled in the episode, but also their website is on the scroll, the bottom third. We make sure that they're mentioned in the Facebook and social media postings, so people can get in touch with them and see what they are. And then maybe if they're in Florida, they're going to want to connect with their Florida people that live in the area. And so that's kind of how we deal with these shelters, and again, it's on a positive level.
I know it's, there's so much hope that you talked about. I want to understand, how do you see the future of animal welfare? I mean,
I'm very optimistic personally, because I think what I'm seeing is, as we've been filming around the world a little bit, we're seeing different countries and different communities approaching animal welfare with different angles, but all of them good. And if we can unify the good to each one, it's going to be a better world. For example, in Switzerland, we were filming the cows up in the mountains, and that's a very iconic picture. You can see the Swiss cows going through the mountains, and the bells are ringing, and all you got to have is someone yodeling, and it's perfect. Well, there was a group that did some examinations of the cows and an evaluation of the milk that they were producing and the milk products, and they found that the cows that were wearing the cowbells were stressed, and the milk wasn't as high a quality as the cows that were not wearing cowbells. And it turns out that the bell is heavy on the cow, and it's noisy, and they don't like it. So what they're doing now in Switzerland is they're removing the cowbells, and they're putting little GPS trackers and a collar on the cow, which has no weight at all, and it still makes it possible for the farmer to track where his cows are. Very simple solution, but it takes sometimes people thinking outside of the box to do that. Another example of in Japan, outside of Tokyo, we went to an amazing nursing home. This was a nursing home really for very old Japanese people that were, on their last bits of this life. And he had worked in hospice, the guy who ran this shelter, this nursing home. He'd worked in hospice prior, and he was finding that when he was dealing with people in their homes that were close to death, they did much better if they had an animal, if they had their pet with them. And so he wanted to bring pets into this nursing home. What was against the laws of Japan. They weren't considered to be clean. And the Japanese are very, very clean oriented. They're very, very pristine about cleanliness. But he petitioned the local community saying, let's try this. And luckily they had a good mayor, and the mayor said, we'll let you do this, but you have to make sure that the cats are on one floor and the dogs are on another floor. So he abided by that. And we went in there to film these animals that were with their parents, as it were. We went into one room where she must have been in her late 90s, and she was pretty much bedridden. But at the foot of her bed was her dog. And they were so happy together. You could just see this love and contentment. And she wasn't stressed that she was dying. She was happy that she was with her pet. And what's great is that they also make sure that when the person does pass, that they continue to look after the pet, so they don't have to worry about the pet being abandoned. And I thought, that is so important and so wonderful. And you just felt this happiness in this hospice environment.
It's more of humane thing. I think, I think as a pet parent, we all are worried that, what's going to happen to our furry babies after we pass. And I think once you know that, you have an assurance of security that there is somebody who's going to take care, I think we all can, live in a bit of peace. So it's such a beautiful story, what you've just mentioned. And especially coming from Japanese culture, I think they, we all have a lot to learn from all different cultures.
Exactly. that's sort of my point. You know, as we keep expanding this show into other, we take AnimalZone maybe one day to India, things there, and compare that with the globe, because luckily Pluto and Flex, 2B, I don't know if you have it on a number of different formats, and of course we have it on the website, their experiences and their ideas, the better I think the world will be for the animals.
Absolutely. Moving forward, for our listeners who are inspired by your work, what's one practical step they can take to make difference for animals in need beyond adopting, beyond adopting a pet?
Sure. Well, first of all, and by the way, when they adopt a pet, it's a good starting point to make some conscious decisions. I mean, first of all, I always encourage people to think about the responsibilities that they're getting themselves into. You know, the cost of an animal, both for care and food and grooming and whatever else you might have going on. That's one reality, but also understanding that there are different animals for different types of homes. You know, like some people want a dog that's just going to sit on the couch with them. They call them couch potato dogs. And they're just going to sit there and be petted and watch TV and be together. Or then there's dogs that are very more hyperactive, that need to be out running and playing on the beach or in the forests or wherever. And they've got to be walked a lot, and they need exercise. And that's a different kind of environment. So first, when you want to think about adopting or having a pet, knowing what you're getting into, doing your homework a bit. And then as far as what individuals can do for the local community is to find those shelters that are doing the right thing and help them, help them by volunteering. That's the first thing. Fostering, which I don't know if that's done in India, but it's very popular here in the States.
We do.
Where you take an animal that's in a shelter and you bring him into your home and you care for the animal for a while, and it really helps to get them comfortable in a home. And then the people also get to know what kind of home this dog will do well in. Maybe a couch home or a run around the beach home or something like that. And then what I always try and say to people, it doesn't matter how much you give to a shelter, just give them something. It could be small, a couple of rupees. A little bit of money can make a big difference. And then also promoting the local shelters. Everybody has social media these days. So, if you go to the shelter and you see some sweet looking animals that you think should be adopted or people should know about, put it up on your personal social media page and say, I just saw this wonderful dog, and someone needs to adopt this dog because he's wonderful. Or volunteer. That's a great thing. Give them things that you might not need. I mean, sometimes people may have medicines that they had for their dog that the dog's no longer. Donate them to the shelter because the shelter can use it. Food. That's great. Dog food sometimes is a very important thing to contribute. And then even blankets and pillows and things that they can use to make the shelter more comfortable. Those are all very helpful things for shelters.
You've just pointed out all the important aspects. It's just not about giving, just giving money. It's just doing your little bit in whichever way. And you very rightly said it's not about trying to donate big. Even I would say, because since I've been talking to a lot of shelters and all these places, feeders, even 100 rupee makes a lot of difference, which is close to, I mean, if you look at it in US, it would be like, what, about $1.50 or something, $1.50. Even that makes a difference, because...
Sure. If you have a couple thousand people who donate that amount, it's going to add up, and it can make a big difference in an animal's life.
Exactly. I remember this shelter that I work very closely with in close to where we live. We were discussing the other day, and that's the book that I said is dedicated to everything going back to their NGO. He was, because we've been discussing, and because I've been trying to understand his point of view of running a shelter, how difficult it is. Not only the shelter, because they do a lot of sterilizations every week, week after week. And, he keeps telling me, Anil, even a 10 rupee helps me get one egg for one of the babies, So when you start thinking that way, it is so important that imagine, even if you make a 10 rupee donation, it's not about the amount. It's just that thought that you've given 10, it helps, even get a single egg. And sometimes it's not just the money. It's all about, going and doing things for the shelter, volunteering. It's so important. So
I think your daughter agrees.
Well, this one is a very, she's the indie, and every day morning first thing, that's a job to do. Anyways, if one of your rescue animals could talk to you, what do you think it would say about its journey of importance of the work you do?
Well, I don't know. I think if Watson was talking to me, the donkey, he'd probably say something along the lines of, he'd say, well, I thought my job was to guard the gate. Turns out it's to open people's hearts. And then he would say, and by the way, can we talk about increasing my carrot allowance? That would be what he would say.
Wow, that's nice.
The other animals, I don't know what they'd say, but they know that they're loved, and they know that, I look forward to the end of the day when I can sit in a chair and I get some of them. One of them lies up above the top of the chair, and the other one sometimes sits on my lap, and we have a purr fest. So, I think they're pretty happy with all that so far.
Coming close to the end of on the show, on a lighter note, if you could magically transform anything into an animal for a day, which would you choose and why?
Oh gosh, if I could be any animal for a day, well, I probably want to be something that flies, because I love the idea of being in the air. In fact, I used to have dreams about flying, and those are my favorite dreams. I probably want to be a bald eagle, because imagine just soaring thousands of feet up in the air over countrysides and seeing things, scanning the world with your eyesight. They have amazing eyesight. So it makes binoculars look like a bad prescription in comparison. Imagine if you spotted a fish and you can see him from a mile above and then zoom down and pick it up. Talk about fast food. That's a great way to go. I also admire their loyalty. Bald eagles are wonderful. They mate for life. They raise their young, and they embody freedom. And certainly here in the U.S., it's our national bird. And given that that I'm losing a little bit of hair myself, I figure I'm already kind of heading towards the bald status. So why not go full bald eagle?
Arthur, now this is where I come to the end of the session, where I normally leave an open mic for the guests to, talk about a pet project that's close to their heart, or probably the charity they support, making an appeal to the audience, trying to make a difference. Please, I leave it an open space for you.
Well, you're very kind. This has been so much fun, and I love your questions and discussion. It's just great. I would say the one thing I wanted to mention that's coming up is we're about to embark on season 14 of the show. And this was the one that was filmed all throughout Hawaii. And there's some wonderful, wonderful things to see in this season, because Hawaii is, besides the beautiful scenery and the wonderful people and the great hula music, they have a great love towards their animals and their natural environment. We're gonna show some very unusual animals. As I said, one of the things we're doing this time, which is new for us, is insects. And the insect we're focusing on is the honeybee, because the honeybee is so important. Well, it's important everywhere, but in Hawaii, it's a very important thing because it pollinates all the other flowers. And I learned so much watching this honeybee segment. We had a beautiful beekeeper. She was so knowledgeable about bees, and that was her life work, is taking care of bees. And she came from she has a place called Birds and Bee Hawaii.
Wow.
And the bees, well, the first thing that happens, this is my usual uniform when I do the show. It's a black shirt, black pants.
And I could see the logo, the AnimalZone logo.
Yeah, that's what I dressed. So I turned up. I said, okay, I'm ready to go. Let's go take a look at some of your beehives. And she says, no, you're not going to go like that. I go, why? She says, well, you can't wear black going to a beehive, because if you go wear black, the bees are going to think you're a bear and they'll attack you.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So they put me in a big white suit, the white hat, the white clothes, white gloves, everything. So I went in white, and then we started filming her bringing out these different frames from the beehive. And the first frame was showing bees that were building the honeycomb, and the next frame showed bees that were putting the honey in the honeycomb, and the next frame was the queen bee laying eggs in the honeycomb. And then on one frame there were these bees, and then one of these bees was doing this kind of figure 8 dance. I mean, I didn't think of it as a dance at the time. I just said, why is that bee going around a figure 8? Oh, that's the bee that's explaining to the other bees where the best blossoms are from the hive.
Wow.
And they call it the waggle dance. And as it goes around the corner, it waggles up and down, and then it goes around again. And all these movements are information about how far away the flowers are in relationship to the sun, and how good it is, and how the time it's going to take to get there. And I went, wow, they're communicating through dance. How incredible. Whoever thought of that? So I think that'll be a very interesting episode. We also, because of India and cows, you would probably find this one interesting, because there was a dairy near Hilo on the Big Island of Hawaii. And the dairy was being shut down, and the cows were going to be sent to slaughter. And a group called the Krishna Cow Sanctuary rescued these cows, and they're followers of Krishna, and they have a lot of belief as far as cows are sacred. Cows must be treated humanely, and in order to help raise funds for their cow sanctuary, they have a sign on the road that says cow cuddling this way, and you pay a small donation, and you can go into this tented barn and lie down with the cows and pet the cows, and they teach you about how cows love being rubbed under their chins like this, and it was a marvelous experience. They were just wonderful. And then we went to Lanai, the island of Lanai, where they have a cat sanctuary, 850 cats in this sanctuary. Wow. It's a big sanctuary. It's about 5 acres of land, beautiful, and has ocean views. I mean, these cats are pretty lucky. And they rescued all these cats off the streets, because in the olden days, Lanai was known for its pineapple and sugar cane. And unfortunately, the pineapple and sugar cane attracted a lot of rats. And so they had to come up with something to get rid of the rats, and they brought in cats. And the cats did a great job of getting rid of the rats, but of course the cats were having a good time themselves, so suddenly there were hundreds and thousands of cats all over the island, and they needed to make sure they weren't on the streets, because they could get hurt by cars, and they needed to be looked after. So luckily the community got together and built this cat sanctuary, and it's actually become a tourist destination now. People love to go and just visit these cats.
Wow.
So all that's going to be in season 14 coming up on AnimalZone.
Wow, wonderful. Now, Arthur, I would like to thank you. I enjoyed our conversation. I wish I could prolong it a longer, but I know we're all running out of time. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Arthur. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure, and I appreciate your time and all that you're doing for animals. God bless you.
God bless you too.